What's kicking, guys? AR Moose here with your 7.3 Unholy Death Knight PvP guide. This isn't your average PvP guide for an Unholy Death Knight. If you're looking to do single target damage and put a lot of pressure on single target, or put a lot of pressure on a healer by just attacking them directly, this isn't for you. This guide is going to be kind of a special Unholy Death Knight guide Unholy Death Knight spec that I've been playing. I'm going to call it the Pandemic or Black Death spec. You're going to be doing uncontrolled amounts of AoE damage. You're really going to become almost a Warlock Warrior mix, almost like a Necromancer. You're going to be doing a lot of AoE damage, and in turn, you're going to be making healers' lives in these battlegrounds an absolute living hell. Now first, I'm going to talk about your talents, then we're going to go into some PvP talents, and then we're going to take a look at some situations in Battlegrounds where you might use this spec to excel, and situations and how to play them. Now obviously I can't go over every situation, but there are some key situations that you'll find yourself in that I think I can provide you with some information with this setup to be very successful. Now let's get into the talents. Okay, so for this first tier of talents, I'll just go ahead and go with what we're gonna go with, which is Ebon Fever. Okay, your Plague is gonna do 20% more damage in half the time. This is an absolute have-to-go-to talent. I think typically you should probably go this no matter what spec you're playing Unholy Death Knight. You just really bring a lot more pressure this way. But in this spec, this is a no-brainer. Absolutely, Ebon Fever. All will serve, I think, is pretty much garbage. I don't think it does very much damage, and it's very hard to control where your damage goes. And Bursting Swords is really good, but for just pure AoE, Ebon Fever is going to be the way to go. Your second tier talent, Epidemic. And Epidemic is really going to be the move that really skyrockets you to the top of the board in case of damage. I mean, if you really want to look like you're on top of the world in the damage world, Epidemic is the one to go. And I'll show you in a little bit how that can really max out the damage. Pestilent Pustules is really good. It kind of keeps your Festering Strike going, and in turn, Festering Runes. This spec, not really what you want. Also, Blighted Rune Weapon, not exactly a big AoE, so we're not going to go with that. On your third tier talent, Clawing Shadows. Basically, like I told you, this is going to be almost a caster. You're going to almost become a caster in this spec. You're going to keep your distance. You're going to keep people slowed, and so Clawing Shadows is going to turn your Scourge Strike into a ranged move. Unholy Frenzy is really good. You can usually keep pretty good uptime with increased attack speed. Pretty good in raiding and some PvP situations. Not with this though. Castigator, again, it's decent in some situations, but not with this build. Level 60 is kind of tricky. Really the only thing here that's going to increase your damage output is going to be the Sludge Belcher, and it's going to be not that much. It's going to make your Dark Ghoul's attacks stronger, obviously give him more, the hook pull, stuff like that. But we're not going to go with that. Asphyxiate's really nice if you want to kill a healer. If your goal is to kill a single healer and that's all you're going to focus on, Asphyxiate provides a nice hodge for that. Debilitating Infestation though. So Unholy Death Knights aren't really known as the slow class, but that's going to change. So what you want to do is, while you're doing this incredible amount of damage on the other team, and the other team is just melting under your Plague, you don't want them to move very fast. So every time you cast Outbreak on a group, you're going to slow them down by 50%. They're going to be waddling around, just melting down from your cleave damage, and that's what we want. So I think Debilitating Infestation works great in Battlegrounds in large groups, and it seems to keep everybody under control. For your next tier talent, 75, this really depends. Spell Eater or Corpse Shield. Lingering Apparition I never use. So check the enemy team. If there's a lot of casters and a lot of magic flying through the air, obviously Spell Eater is going to benefit you more than Corpse Shield, but you're just going to have to make that decision on your own. If it's melee heavy, definitely go Corpse Shield. You're really going to reduce a lot more overall damage that way. level 90 talents. This one is pretty easy, and this is going to be necrosis. Basically, you're going to be fighting from a distance. You don't really want to get in the fight in this spec. This isn't going to be, you know, a toe-to-toe, I'm going to fight a warrior. No, a warrior will kill you one-on-one. Just if you sit there and try to fight him. It'll be an extremely tough fight, and most likely he will win. But if you go with necrosis, and I'll show you in a second when I start showing you how to do some of these things, you're going to be able to hit with Clawing Shadows with a lot more damage than normal. Shadow Infusion, it's good if you want Dark Transformation to come around more often. Obviously that's a good thing if you're going single target. And Infected Claws, a lot of people use this. You could put your ghoul on a healer and fight somebody else, and then when the time comes you can pull the healer in and hit him with Apocalypse, and after the pets put 8 wounds on him. So a lot of people use this, not my thing. I like Necrosis. Okay, the level 100 talents. Okay, this one, I may be alone on this one, but I really like Defile. A lot of people go with Dark Arbiter just for the increase in damage of your Gargoyle, and a lot of people go with Soul Reaper too, but I don't think Soul Reaper's that great personally. But Defile, basically that's going to allow you to drop more damage onto a group of people. Your Scourge Strike, or your Calling Shadows, is then going to hit everybody near the Defile, and also every time they're in the Defile, your mastery is going to start increasing by 300 every time, stacking up to 10 times. That's 3,000 mastery that you can be doing every 30 seconds. And this thing lasts for a while, lasts for 10 seconds. So this is a long time you have your mastery up, and you're doing damage while buffing your mastery. I think it's a no-brainer. You got to go with Defile for this spec. I guess if you disagree, that's alright. We're all humans and we can disagree. But this is my guide, and this is what I'm going with. For your PvP talents, okay, these are all, the first few, you know, your Trinket, I go with Relentless, I'm an Orc, it's way better. Sparring, obviously you're going to get more damage reduction from sparring, especially when you're fighting a warrior. You don't want to, warriors do so much damage, paladins do so much damage, so you want to at least be able to block some of that. So we're going to go with sparring. Reinforced armor you may want to go with if the other team has hardly any melee and just pure casters. Because the sparring's not going to help with casters. So if it's a bunch of casters, reinforced armor. If it's a bunch of melee, go with sparring. This is really just me picking a dark simulacrum, but this is just because I like to use other people's moves, and it's always fun to steal a Fire Mage's Greater Pyroblast. Really not for this spec, but just overall, this is a fun move to me. Anti-Magic Zone, AMZ is really good. I mean, you can really, if there's a lot of casters, you can really limit their damage on a group of your teammates or yourself. Okay, so let's get into the real PvP talents here that are going to affect how you play. So, Necrotic Aura. You're going to be wanting to do this, obviously, because this is going to increase all AoE damage done. So this is pretty much a no-brainer. Cooldown recovery rates is good. 3% loss of health is good for, you know, temporary, but you want to increase your damage overall all the time. The next tier, I like Pandemic. This is, again, you're going to be using 3 basic moves. You're going to be using Outbreak, you're going to be using Epidemic, and Death Coils. I guess you'll be using Defile too, but this will just increase every time you use Outbreak. Everybody that's affected by your diseases is going to do an additional 94,000 damage to everybody around them, and all your diseases are refreshed on them. So, I mean, this is the one to go with. Wandering Plague, I don't think this works very well. It's not my cup of tea. I haven't seen much use for it. So I wouldn't go with that. I think Pandemic, with what we're doing here with the Pandemic build or the Black Death build, this is going to be your choice. And then for the last one, again, this is not very good. I don't like this talent tree or this this talent here, I go with Necrotic Strike for that situation where you are going to be fighting a healer just in the rare chance. Or I switch between reanimation. I really don't like Unholy Mutations because it does very little damage and everybody's already going to be slowed anyway by your diseases and outbreak. Reanimation actually does quite a bit of damage if the zombie can make it into the pile of enemies, but honestly, the zombie is so easily killed that this is kind of a waste. So I wouldn't necessarily go with that. So Necrotic Strike is pretty good. It gives you a little more utility as far as killing healers are concerned, so we'll go with that. Alright, let's look at some situations in Battlegrounds on how to play these. Alright guys, for the first fight, for the first style and what we're going to be doing in the Battlegrounds, I'm going to show you the pure AoE damage that you can bring. Now, this is great for fights like Eye of the Storm, Temple of Komogu, Warsong mid-fights. I mean, this is something that you could really do a lot of damage with and bring teams down very quickly and make a healer's life an absolute living hell and make him regret ever entering a battleground with you. So basically what you're going to do, you're going to run in and you're just going to start putting Outbreak on everybody. And if you get everybody in a group, great. That's just going to get them all going already. You won't have to wait. Everybody will have the Plague on them and everybody's already melting down. You can see the numbers already coming down and that's just 3. So you're going to run in, keep your distance, get Outbreak on everybody. And then you're going to start pumping Epidemic out. And basically you'll see the damage. You'll see the damage coming. And if you know how Epidemic works, the more the merrier, right? So if there's 5 guys, every person is going to be taking individual damage from Epidemic and your Plague. And not only that, but their diseases are going to flare up. And they're going to be wasting their friends. I mean, the closer they are to their friends, you can just tick. Look at the damage. Yeah, it's 50,000, it's 20,000. But you're also doing a lot more than that. You're doing the 40s, you're doing the 153s. I mean, it's all happening at one time. Also with this, you're going to be dropping Defile on them. So keep Defile on them when you have a chance on the group of people. Keep your Plague on them to keep them slowed. If you want to slow the group, hit them with Outbreak. It'll slow them, reapply your Plague, and it'll also cause, what we were talking about the talents, it'll also cause Pandemic to flare up, so it'll give you more damage. It'll instantly do more damage, so you can just see the damage output here. Also what this does, you're not spending any runic power. So while you're doing this, you're just going to build up tons of runic power. So in that situation where a warrior or something wants to come fight you, you'll be ready. Okay, so let's say you bring down groups of people. You're hitting them with Outbreak. You're dropping a Defile on them, and you're just going to start spamming Epidemic and really, really get that damage up there. Now, what I would do, once you top off at Runic Power, you want to start casting some Death Coils in here. Cast Death Coils whenever you start reaching 125 or 100 Runic Power, because you don't want to waste that, obviously. Okay, next we're going to talk about single target. So that's all great and all for a group of people, but eventually a warrior is going to get pissed, and he's going to want to fight you, and he's going to shut you down, because let's face it, you're making his life hell, and he's got to do something about it, and he's a warrior, and so he's got to smash his head against his keyboard and pretend like he's playing an actual class. So, that's not a knock against warriors. Actually, I think that's a knock against warriors. So, I don't want to get too ahead of myself here, so you got a dummy here. So we'll pretend this is a warrior coming at us. Obviously, you're going to want to hit him with your Outbreak. You're going to want Plague on him. You're going to want this melting him at all times. Let me get my ghoul out here too. I was trying to keep him away to make the guide more clear and easy to see. So you're going to want your ghoul on him. You're going to want to dark transform your ghoul. Basically your playstyle against melee, or casters for that matter. Mostly melee though. If you're fighting melee one-on-one, you're going to want to keep your distance. Don't let the warrior touch you. If the warrior touches you, warriors do like 10,000 billion damage, if that's even a number, but they do it. So don't let them get near you. Keep ice on them. Keep Outbreak on them. Okay, and while you have your distance, and this is what I was telling you about in the talents with Necrosis, basically you're going to hit him with a Death Coil. Then you're going to hit him with Clawing Shadows. And then you're going to hit him with Death Coil. Clawing Shadows. And the only reason you want to touch him at first is to get those festering wounds up. Get the festering wounds up and get away before he kills you in 3 hits, because you know warriors, they just nuke bomb people. So stay away. Get your festering wounds on them. Get your pet on them. Throw a gargoyle on them. Keep your distance. If they get close, wraith walk away. But your main rotation, which I guess is a takeaway here, get your disease on them. Get your diseases on them. Get melee range. Get your festering wounds on them, and then start just doing death coil, clawing shadows. Death coil, clawing shadows. Hit him with outbreak to slow him and get your diseases back up. Death coil, clawing shadows. Death coil, clawing shadows, and you will win. You will beat a warrior. You will beat a paladin. If you can keep your distance, use wraith walk in case they get close, you will kill them. Now, as for a caster is going to be more your standard old DK build. You're going to be close because you're going to be doing direct damage. It's nothing special. Put your spell, your anti-magic shield on, and just go to town on them. Festering strike. Get those festering wounds up. Same thing. Hit them with death coil, clawing shadows. Death coil, clawing shadows. Keep the plague on them. Death coil, clawing shadows. And obviously, we're Unholy Death Knights, so in all these situations, when Apocalypse is up, make sure you have 6 wounds, and just, boom, lay the wood on them. Make their life absolutely pure hell, and bring the hurt. So basically, that's going to be most of the situations you'll encounter in Battlegrounds. Like I said, where you're really going to top the damage boards, and you're going to be competing with the major AoE damage classes out there, like the Warlocks, like the big AoE Warlocks, the Destro Locks, the Balanced Druids. You're going to be competing with all these up there, and you're going to be doing more damage than them actually, and you're going to actually be providing a lot more, cleave for your team. So be sure and review, the Plague, the Defile, the Epidemic. That's really, it sounds pretty easy, but trust me, you're going to have a lot of fun with this. You're going to enjoy this, and you're going to be a beast on your team. Alright guys, that's it. Hit this video with a like, and I'll be doing some more PvP guides for you in the future. So thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.